The club isn't the best place to find a lover, so the bar is where I go. Me and my friends at the table doing shots, drinking fast, and then we talk slow.
A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the ThinkThings event 2021. Thank you for joining us online, especially for those people who are supposed to be here in person, physically in the Neckarhal in Mechelen, because this was supposed to be a hybrid event. But last week, of course, because of the circumstances we all know about, we decided to switch from a hybrid event to a full online event. But the main thing is, which is very important, of course, is that we haven't postponed or cancelled the event, because the topics that we are discussing today are way too important. And although we're not able to meet physically, the main topic today is co-creation, because co-creation is very important to come to innovative solutions. And we will prove this today with the 5 topics that we are discussing in the next 2 hours. Internet of Things and analytics, manufacturing, artificial intelligence, 5G, and smart working. Some of these topics will be introduced by a keynote speaker, and we also have a flying reporter we've sent around the country to find out more about the real-world applications of these technologies. So we will meet Ben Roelands later on. So there is a lot to discover in the next 2 hours, so I suggest that we start straight away. But of course, the CEO of Proximus wants to welcome you as well, so I give the floor to Guillaume Boutin.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm super happy to welcome you to ThinkThings, where we bring customers, partners, and experts together. Welcome. Today's edition is all about thinkers and go-getters, a great opportunity to meet and to mix all your ideas with new technology. New technology is not a goal in itself. It's merely a tool. Let me explain. The way we think about technology and how to use it has changed. Companies are realizing that technology is not only there to optimize their operational processes. It helps us to reinvent ourselves, our companies, and our society. And if we do things with the right mindset, we can work together to create a sustainable and future-proof business environment. And that is the goal of technology. But today, hardly any company can keep up with all the latest innovations on their own. You are better off working in an ecosystem with technology companies, with startups or academics, and many other structures, so that you can collaborate with the best experts in the fields. Think, work, and move forward together. Because together we can combine the know-how of one company with the expertise of another. Together, in co-creation, we can get to exceptional innovation. Together, we simply achieve more. It's ThinkThings' trademark to demonstrate how things work. And this year is no different. Please join me in an interactive talk show filled with inspiring roundtables, keynotes, and some live entertainment as well. And please explore some of the topics in greater depth in the breakout sessions. I hope today will inspire you. And I truly wish that today is the starting point of a new journey full of innovation and transformation, so that your organization will be ready for the business challenges of today and tomorrow. Enjoy the ride.
Thank you very much, Guillaume. And indeed, ladies and gentlemen, let's enjoy. Take yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and let yourself be inspired by the many experts we have invited this afternoon. So my first guest here on stage is Alex Loretti, is Director Enterprise Solutions and Platforms at Proximus. A very warm welcome, Alex, but you have not come alone. I've seen you've got some company. Is it a he, a she, or is it an it? What should I call it? It's a
yeah. Robot. So welcome everybody, and I'm indeed presenting you Spot, and it's Spot supervisor Cindy. So Spot is a mobile robot, and of course he can do a lot of stuff. It's a robot from Boston Dynamics. It can do routine inspections, tasks, capture data. It has a lot of sensors into it. Actually, he uses sensors for his own balance, but also a lot of sensors to be able to detect heat, gas, temperature, noises, a lot of information. And of course, it can be connected in 5G. But actually, the reason why we invited Spot, and the most important element, is that this robot works together with a human. And it's all about what we want to talk about today. Innovation and technology is one stuff, but it really requires also human brains and creativity to make it to the next level. And it's all what we want to show here today with ThinkThings, inspire you with the good mix between technology and human creativity.
Well, Alex, this was supposed to be a hybrid event, but that doesn't keep us from organizing this online event now, so all the main things will remain as foreseen.
Yeah, unfortunately enough, we had really wanted to do a hybrid event, letting everybody choose about coming physically or attending remotely. It's really what we do every day as Proximus Enterprise. We help enterprise and the customers to really cope with this new hybrid environment. Now, unfortunately, due to the COVID situation, we revolved back to a full digital event. We are still here physically, and I hope that everybody will enjoy the event from behind their screens.
So this is all about co-creation. That's the main topic, the main topic of today. So why is it so important for Belgian companies to work on this co-creation?
Co-creation is important because the world is changing very fast. But what we saw in the last months is that there is an important factor coming extra, is the uncertainty factor. So with a lot of uncertainty and speed, you cannot cope with that alone. You have to do innovation in co-creation with other companies. So at Proximus, we are used to do so, especially for IoT. We have a living ecosystem of IoT partners for many years, but we decided also to move the extra speed and to create extra partnerships in retail co-creation. So we did, for instance, partnership with SaaS to bring together IoT capabilities and AI capabilities to be able to deliver intelligent IoT use case. We have an important partnership with Basics. We decided together to jointly invest in a new company called Ogi to bring augmented energy, so smart energy and smart building use case together. We have a lot of use case that we will show today around augmented reality, virtual reality, supported by 5G. And we also scaled up our capabilities in consulting to be able really to help customers in these digital transformation.
You already mentioned many of the topics and use cases that we're going to discuss this afternoon. What else can people who are watching today, what can they expect?
So I hope they will be inspired, or you will be inspired by our use case around 5G, AI, analytics, and digital innovation. And I hope that you will see how we can turn a problem into an idea and then transform this idea into an innovation, and how this innovation is actually brought together with some partners to really deliver a solution. And of course, you can count on Proximus to act as a bridge between this different technology, but also as a kind of a hub between all the parties that have to contribute to digital innovation.
Well, thank you very much, Alex. Let's get started. And the first topic, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to discuss today is data analytics and Internet of Things. And these are my experts around the table. Alex, we already met and have already introduced. And there is also Lionel Lavaux, CEO of What the Shop, and François-Xavier Len, Head of Tourism in Wallonia at the Cabinet of Minister Valérie Debu. A very warm welcome, gentlemen. Lionel, I'd like to start with you. Could you explain a little bit what the shop does? Because I don't think everybody knows. And what kind of partnership do you have with Proximus?
Yes, we've developed a retail tech company. We basically help retailers to innovate in their shops, and we've been working with Proximus on different projects. Mainly, we began with a project with the Citadelle de Namur, then with JC Deco. And last year, during the COVID crisis, we decided to launch together the entrance monitoring solution to help retailers with all the the sanitary rules that they had to respect during that strange period that we've all lived.
Yeah, lived and are still living, in fact.
Yeah, in fact. And so that was a quite great partnership. Proximus brought, of course, connectivity for this project. We needed connectivity. We needed sensors that they could bring on the table. They helped us with their sales team, their technical teams on the Belgian market. And as we are a French company, we brought access to the French market, and we also brought on the table our own sensors, our platform, and the totem itself, because we needed some totems to show the real-time counting solution for the customers in the shops.
So now you've already explained a bit what the aim was of the partnership. Did it meet up to the expectations?
Yes, I think so. We've had some quite great results. In fact, last year we did present the use case of one of our customers, which is Decathlon. We've had some great results in that field, and in fact, we keep on innovating. We'll show that later during the breakout session that we'll have today. But we keep on innovating on introducing new analytics data for retailers. It's been the period we've been through has accelerated the adoption of analytics for retailers. They now understand that they really truly need to understand what is happening in their shops. And we've been able to answer those expectations with this collaboration. Yeah.
So do you have already an idea whether there's more to get out of this partnership in the future?
Well, as I just said, we still have a lot to do in the analytics part. We still have lots of innovation to bring in that field, but we also are working on new disruptive solutions. For example, we've been working on a content management solution to give access to local contents for the customers when they enter the shop, contents they can browse with their smartphones. And that's the type of solution which are really innovative and really hard to create.
Well, thank you very much, Lionel. Okay.
My pleasure.
Alex, sustainability, it's a topic that is important for many companies and also, of course, for Proximus. What steps is Proximus taking in this regard, and how can Internet of Things and data analytics support its commitment?
Well, sustainability is really one of our key strategic pillars. We have 4 strategic pillars at Proximus. One of them is sustainability, just to give you an idea on the importance we put on this topic. Basically, we work on 2 axes for this. First, we do a lot on circularity. For instance, all our B-box are in recycled plastics. We did recently a campaign to recuperate all the old smartphones to be able to recycle them, which is called Don't Miss the Call. We also recuperate and refurbish CPs and a lot of box, so that's one element. The other element is really work on CO2 reduction. And for this, of course, like any company, we want to move to full green fleet, to 100% green energy. But we do much more. Of course, we have already green data centers, and we do a lot of work on CO2 abatement. So you have to know Proximus, approximately per year, it's 760 kiloton of CO2 emission. We are already more than halfway in CO2 abatement, meaning that we can abat already more than the half, roughly 460. And our ambition is that by 2030, we will be net positive CO2 contributor. So it's really a huge ambition. Now, what we do to ourselves, we also want to help customers and do this transition. So we have a lot of solutions, but also projects where we can help in the calculation of CO2 abatements for customers. Solutions, of course, many solutions. For instance, if you have cloud assets, or if you move from a PBX solution to PBX in the cloud to a full cloud solution, you reduce de facto your CO2. But of course, IoT and analytics are really at the core of what we can do in CO2 reduction. And everything that we will talk about today is about that. If we speak about smart logistics, smart manufacturing, but also smart energy, smart building, it's all about being more efficient in the way we operate to reduce our emissions.
We already heard a very interesting use case in the retail sector from Lionel. So what other companies is Proximus partnering with?
So we do a lot of other stuff, and not only companies, by the way, we do also a lot of stuff for the public sector. And due to the situation, we really followed, I would say, the actuality to do extra and new stuff. For instance, due to the COVID situation, we really had a specific focus last year on equipping all the vaccination centers. So of course, it's with IT and telco services, but much more than that. Because of the temperature monitoring that was required for the vaccine, we came with very specific solution to be able to do this monitoring. These were, of course, IoT-related solution, but also the solution to monitor the number of people entering a vaccination center, what we call the heat map, how many people are there. We helped and we brought these solutions to make vaccination centers efficient and a safe place to go. And not only vaccination center, we do also a lot, and we did a lot for tourism last year, a lot of projects also at the Walloon region, for instance, like the Lodeur or Villers-la-Ville.
Well, thank you very much, Alex. And let's find out more about this collaboration between Proximus and the Walloon region. Ben Roelands is our flying reporter this afternoon, who traveled around the country for ThinkThings in the past weeks, looking for real-world applications of new technology. So he also visited Villers-la-Ville and Le Lac d'Odeur, two sites in Wallonia where big data is being used and implemented.
Welcome to the impressive ruins of the Abbey of Villers-la-Ville, built in the 12th century and inhabited by monks for over 600 years. Today, it's mostly frequented by tourists, and I'm here to find out what they think. Van waar ben je precies gekomen?
Van Assen.
Overijs.
La première fois que vous venez ici?
Personnellement, oui, c'est la 3e fois.
Nee, het is de eerste keer.
Combien est-ce que vous comptez de dépenser aujourd'hui?
Environ de 50 € par personne.
30 euro, weet ik niet.
Interesting, but then again, to be able to find out where your visitors came from, where they're going, how much money they'll be spending on site, let's say it's a bit complicated. Maybe there's an easier way to do it. Let's find out. Cédric, nous voilà ici à Villers-la-Ville, une site ancienne et en même temps, c'est le sommet de la technologie. Expliquez-moi un peu.
On essaye d'évoluer, de rester à la pointe, je veux dire, de la technologie avec justement ce projet Big Data qui a été lancé avec Proximus. Il s'agit de mieux comprendre et de mieux savoir qui vient nous rendre visite, quand, comment. On avait déjà un petit peu d'informations avec notre caisse à l'entrée où on demandait la province d'origine des visiteurs. Mais ici, on permet de capturer beaucoup plus d'informations et de la capturer directement de manière automatique. Donc ces informations-là sont super utiles pour nous. Et puis, il y a aussi des informations qui sont utiles de savoir quelle quantité d'argent ils dépensent dans la région.
Et comment est-ce que vous mesurez ça alors?
On le mesure avec différents types de données, bon, les données forcément des capteurs, mais ces données sont aussi croisées avec les paramètres socio-économiques des profils des personnes, qui permettent de dire quel est leur niveau d'études, quelle est leur composition de ménage, etc. Aussi des données bancaires qui permettent de savoir quels sont les montants dépensés dans la région, ici, et donc de pouvoir faire un ratio et de comparer justement l'impact économique de leur présence sur place.
Donc avant, vous le faisiez comment encore?
Donc simplement, le visiteur à l'entrée, on lui demande de quelle province il vient. C'était la seule, je veux dire, statistique de base qu'on avait.
So now we know how they did it right here on site, but maybe we should ask the minister. Madame la ministre, bienvenue ici à Villers-la-Ville. Moi, je me demandais, le but du projet que vous avez déroulé ici, c'était quoi?
Donc, nous menons au niveau de la Wallonie une stratégie digitale pour développer le tourisme. C'est une des pistes que nous allons développer pour mieux connaître les attentes des touristes et surtout nous adapter, proposer des produits qui correspondent à leurs attentes.
Et pourquoi ce site-ci alors?
L'abbaye de Villers-la-Ville est un site qui est en grande partie propriété de la région wallonne et qui génère des flux de visiteurs importants qui viennent d'horizons et de régions très différentes. Et donc, c'était une belle opportunité d'étudier ce site de manière plus approfondie.
Pourquoi est-ce que vous avez choisi de travailler avec Proximus?
Donc, il s'agit en fait d'une opération test, c'est un projet pilote. Et donc, Proximus nous a proposé d'étudier les données à partir donc des visiteurs sur ce site et ça nous a semblé semblé une très belle opportunité de réaliser cela cet été. Et donc nous sommes maintenant en phase d'évaluation de ces projets pilotes. Nous étudions en fait ce type de technologie, donc le big data, pour le développer effectivement dans d'autres sites de Wallonie. C'est important en matière d'analyse du tourisme, mais aussi en matière de gestion des flux.
Now, as you can see that the project they've enrolled right here has been proven to be very successful, but I've heard of another project in Le Pays des Lacs, and that's where I'm headed right now. I'm right now at Les Lacs de l'Odeur. Right here they have 1,500 hectares of surface with lakes, and they welcome none less than 1,200,000 people every year. That's enormous, and that's exactly why they decided to do the little exercise. Voilà, Madame Charrue, nous voilà ici tout près du barrage des Lacs de l'Odeur. Mais racontez-moi un peu, qu'est-ce que vous avez fait avec Proximus?
Sur le site, il y a plusieurs lieux de captage où là on peut voir principalement par où les personnes arrivent, quels sont le type de personnes qui viennent jusqu'ici, en fait le profil un peu. Ça permet aussi de voir un peu la manière dont les gens se comportent sur le site, et donc ça nous permet de pouvoir mieux organiser sur place le déplacement, l'organisation des parkings par exemple. Ça nous permettrait avec le tech de pouvoir envisager un autre type de mobilité, ce qui n'existe pas pour le moment. Et donc le travail que l'on fait avec Proximus va pouvoir nous aider à imaginer ce qui pourrait être mis en place.
Moi j'aimerais savoir ce que vous savez sur moi comme données.
Alors, par rapport à ce que moi je reçois, les données sont agrégées et anonymisées par Proximus. Donc ce qui veut dire que c'est par rapport à un quartier de manière générale, c'est par rapport à un ensemble de personnes. Et donc, il est impossible de savoir que vous avez fait ça, puis ça, et de le relier à votre personne. Et donc, ça permet d'avoir des données tout en étant dans le respect de la vie privée.
Wow, places absolutely worthwhile visiting. François-Xavier, you are the head of tourism at the cabinet of the minister Valérie Debu. What did you learn from this data collection?
So we really learned a lot from this project. So it was a proof of concept. So as Mrs. Debu said in the video, we have huge ambition for the digital and the tourism in Wallonia, but also even at the worldwide level, it's a major point, it's a major purpose. And one of the points of the digital strategy we have developed, co-created with our administration and the stakeholders, is how to monitor our policies, our public policies, and big data is one of the way to monitor it. And Proximus came to us with a proposition to run a project from July to October, and that was a way for us to understand what kind of data we could collect, anonymized data, if it's important to say, and what we can use it for, because we have to develop an expertise. It's not only important to get the data, the most important is to use it on the correct purpose. And, yeah.
So Proximus came to the minister, to the cabinet. So how was that partnership with Proximus? How did it go?
So they knew we are looking and developing. We met them for the development of our strategy, and so they came back, and we chose two different sites. You just saw, donc Villers-la-Ville and the Abbey and Les Lacs de l'Odeur, who have a different purpose, different offer, and we co-created this. Even with also with our own administration, because there was an interest for the field. You saw Mr. Delcourt in the video. He rapidly said that it was interesting because they could monitor, for example, the communication actions. They could knew almost instantly the effect of the communication on the visitor coming on their site, and that was not possible up to there. So, and for us, there is also a lot of a big learning on the impact of the public policies. There were events on in Villers-la-Ville during that period, July and August, and so we could know the impact on the site, but also around the site of the AB and the economic impact, because tourism is also, and most of all, an important economic sector in Wallonia.
So what is the result now of the collaboration with Proximus and all the data that you have gathered?
So the result is we better know what kind of data we can get. There is the big data part coming from the mobile network of Proximus and also other partners. And at the micro level, there are IoT solutions that were on the site, and we developed our expertise to use those data, and we better know where our tourists come from, what are the economic profile, the money they spent on the site and around, and so we will, on the future, better know, using this technology, what are the policies to develop, where to develop them, and the impact they have, and how we can we can set our strategy at that level.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, this concludes the first topic of this afternoon, Internet of Things and Data Analytics. So thank you very much, François Xavier Len, thank you, Lionel Avaux, and Alex Loretti. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's take this a step further. Gathering lots of data is not a big issue, not anymore these days, but analyzing the data and taking correct and useful conclusions out of it, that's a whole other ballgame. And that's exactly where artificial intelligence, or AI, steps in. AI is being widely used, although we're not always aware of it. AI is a very powerful application in predicting upcoming trends in business, technology, commerce, entertainment, and everything in between. But all too often, AI is not implemented in a correct way. It is of a great importance that a company or a governmental institution like the tourism department of the Walloon government is well informed of what AI is capable of, how to communicate with the AI team that will develop the platform and the project to prevent unwanted results. We will discuss this topic later on with a team of experts, but first I give the floor to Mieke de Ketelaere as Director AI at IMEC Idea Lab. She leads the AI department and rolls out the AI strategy. Mieke de Ketelaere is also the author of the book Untitled, Human AI Translator. So I give the floor to Mieke de Ketelaere.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, thanks to Proximus for having me as a keynote speaker. So why did I write a book? There's so many books out there already on AI. Well, there was two reasons for this. First of all, I felt that the tension between people believing in the technology and people not believing in it was too high. I look at it as an engineer, I go like, but it's a tool. It's a technology. It's not something you need to believe in. It is something that needs to work. Let me explain to you how it works in easy terms. The second reason was the fact that those companies who understand how it works, they only look at it from a profit side, without taking their responsibility to make sure it lands correctly in the society. The book invites you to look at the open questions we need to answer all together in order to make sure the technology lands correctly in the future. So how did we get so far? How did we get to that situation? Well, if you go back to the original dream, in the 1950s, some academics were thinking, what if we create systems that have the ability to learn by themselves without being programmed, replicating what our human brain does? That was the original dream of AI. But with the arrival of IoT and internet and digital techniques, we actually extended that original dream to a full human body, adding sensors to it, sensors that collect information, information that's sent to the brain makes a decision, A decision that's going to our actors in order to make sure that things happen, decisions are made. Well, we've actually automated now this whole cycle. That means we have taken the human out of the loop, and additionally, AI has become a hidden technology somewhere in our automated systems. And that's the danger that's out there. But it also means that these autonomous systems have resulted in some numbers. Some numbers we all need to look at together in order to make sure we take the right actions to the future. First of all, 2% at the moment of CO2 emission is directly linked to AI and IoT. Well, we know that the number of our smart devices is going to increase, and the size of our AI algorithms is going to increase. So McKinsey has calculated that if we don't tackle this issue, we will be at 20% in 2030, which is, of course, not acceptable in a sustainable world we are living in. Additionally, we notice that 85% of the companies do start projects with AI, pilot, POCs, prototypes, but only 21% of them are able to put it into operational modus. So why is it happening? Why are there so many companies out there that didn't get it right from the start? We need to tackle this. And last but not least, even companies who do know how it works, like Amazon, had to switch off many of their systems. 35% of the systems and models had to be switched off last year at Amazon because they start to misbehave. It's a simple fact that for a data scientist knows that the accuracy of your system is going to be directly linked to the environment where it was trained. So if this environment changes, you need to retrain your system, your environment. Commercial systems out there aren't doing this automatically. It's a simple fact known by data scientists, but somehow got lost in translation in our business. Well, what are then the actions to take in order to make sure we can take profit out of our system, or out of our AI environments? We need to look at it in a new economical model. That means we need to look at it from a planet perspective, people perspective, and profit perspective. From a profit perspective, I think it is important to say that it is not a bottom-up approach that should land in the companies, because data and technology and creating use cases around that works. Trust me, many companies have shown it. But it's a top-down approach that's lacking. The fact that we need to understand as a complete company that it implicates an understanding of processes and people, the teams that you need around it in order to make it land correctly, that is misunderstood. So I urge companies, starting with AI, to also take those parts into the consideration. Additionally, as mentioned, technology always lands in our society if we do it correctly, if we also take care of the planet perspective and the people perspective. Let me take you to the 1950s, when we were driving with our cars from A to B. Today, we're still driving with our cars from A to B, but using a motor which is having a much less negative impact on the environment. Well, this is exactly the same that we need to do with our AI. We need to look at our algorithms and our systems that we are building so that they have a much more positive impact on the environment than what we have today. We can be proud that in Belgium, we are actually taking energy-efficient AI as one of the main parts in our research, working all the way from new chip development, neuromorphic chips, up to the development of new algorithms that are able to reduce 70–80% of the energy consumption. We're doing this in Belgium in research. What is the action to take? We need to make sure that this research is actually translated to the business. So we need to make more proactive bridges between research and business in order to make sure that this gets translated. That's from the planet perspective. If I take you back to 1950s on this car, and we look at it from the people perspective, well, we didn't have driver's license, we didn't have road signs, we didn't have protection in our cars, so there were accidents happening. And so the simple basic human right for security wasn't fulfilled in the 1950s. Now, did we stop driving our car because it was insecure? No, we created a framework around it in order to make sure we can continue and have the profit and the value that the car brings, but in a secure environment. And that's exactly the same that what we do with AI. At the moment, there's no framework for AI. There's no control organisms, there's no audits, there's nothing around. Yes, I am aware that Europe has created the European AI Act this year based on 4 levels of risks. But be honest, if we open the newspapers on Saturday and we see that AI has gone wrong, and we then look at the act, we know that there's still a long way to go before we can activate that act. And I urge companies to really proactively look up that act and see how we can make sure that it ends correctly. That also means that today there is no security framework, there is no framework around AI, and we need to rely on ourselves, on our own accountability and responsibility within the companies in order to make sure that our solutions end correctly in our society. That also means we all need to make an effort translating from our own sector, from our own silo, towards the others on what needs to be done in order to make sure we are protecting the society. An important role in there is the AI Translator, who will go around and make sure that the bridges are built. And this AI Translator has become the main character in my book. I wish you a happy reading.
Thank you so much, Mieke de Ketelaar, and I'd like to invite you to join us at the table. In the meantime, whether, ladies and gentlemen, you are considering or not your company or organization you work for to apply AI, I can always advise you to read the book of Mieke de Ketelaar, Wanted Human AI Translators. It's translated in 4 languages. Well, it's written in Flemish and probably translated in English, Dutch. Of course, you can find it in Dutch, French, and German. All right. And I'd like to introduce you to my other panel members in this round table. I'd like to start with Stefan Lordobegs, CEO of Augi. It stands for Augmented Energy. Augi is founded by a new joint venture between Proximus, the construction company Basics, and Lico, that's a startup from the Kempen. Jurgen van Geijten, Director Agri-Food Technology at ILVO. That's the Flanders Institute for Agriculture, Fisheries and Food Research. Very warm welcome. And Miguel de Bruiker, Managing Director of the Center for Cybersecurity in Belgium. And Mieke, of course, I've already introduced. All right, let's start with you, Jurgen. ILVO has set up a very interesting AI project together with Proximus. It can have an immense impact on agriculture. So please elaborate on this project.
Yes, the project was under the umbrella of a bigger European project where we focus on adoption of smart technology in farming. And what we did here is actually we combined AI with autonomous drones and 5G connectivity. So what we did is we sent an autonomous drone with a camera into the field, and he went out to detect weeds. The images that he takes are actually transmitted over a 5G connection towards an AI algorithm in the cloud. The algorithm detects the weeds and sends the position of the weeds to another smart machine that then goes into the field and only sprays exactly where the weeds are found.
Because that's the ultimate goal, to reduce the use of chemicals. It's an EU requirement.
Yes, the ultimate goal is to come to a sustainable food production. Actually, it's even a higher goal, and the European Commission aims at reducing 50% of the pesticides by 2030. So we have to speed up, and a lot of work is there to be done. But with our solution, in the second application of pesticides, we go up to 80% of saving pesticides.
So what are the results of this test with the drones on the cornfields?
First of all, the result, and I think we can say that it's fantastic, is that we could do it in real life, in real field conditions, like it happens for the farmers. So that's a very nice one. And of course, the huge step in sustainability. And not only sustainability on the economic side, but also the environmental side of economy and the health will be improved thanks to this project.
Well, till now it's only in a test phase. When could it be implemented at a larger scale?
Well, first of all, I think the co-creation aspect. So we involved a lot of partners as well from industry, from the businesses, and that is very, very important. Also the end users, the farmers were very closely connected. They brought their knowledge. They helped us on designing it. So that gives us a strong feeling that the adoption should be able to be in a time frame of 5 years would be a reasonable way to make it.
Mm-hmm. So this is a very nice example of co-creation. Which partners were involved?
There's a long list. IMEC was involved, the Ghent University was involved. We involved a leading Flemish company, RoboVision, in AI, and an Exobotic to bring us the drone. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody, but also the farmers were there, and the people driving these smart machineries were there.
So what's needed to make it work, a co-creation with so many different partners, to bring together all that expertise?
I think first of all, you need a common goal, and all our players were very much convinced of this sustainability result that we needed it. And then I also think you need somebody in the middle, and that was our role. We are able to understand as well a little bit the technology geeks and the domain experts. So we build the bridge between somebody who talks AI and somebody who talks farming.
That's exactly what Mika was talking about earlier on. Stefan, you are the CEO of Augi. Could you tell us a bit more about the co-creation and the joint venture that you are working with?
Yes, so it started 2.5 years ago when I started a new venture in the smart energy world, iLeco. We are bringing a horizontal platform to enable energy communities, which is supposed to be a very important architectural element of the future energy system. About 50% of the energy transactions by 2050 will be in energy communities, so we enable that with our software platform. And what's part of that software platform? Those are buildings. Buildings, not dumb buildings, but smart buildings due to the software. And that then really triggered Basics and Proximus saying, okay, smart buildings, yes, energy is a very important element, sustainability, but we can bring more. From the energy part, we have to do very deep integrations to get all the data to be able to interact with the building and its assets. And exactly those deep integrations can also enable different use cases. Those different use cases, again, triggered Basics and Proximus, like, okay, now we can bring full smart buildings to life. And that then triggered off Augi, augmented energy, more than energy.
Mm-hmm. So you're talking about gathering data. So where exactly does AI come in?
So AI at the moment on the energy part already comes in, gathering all that data. In principle, what it does, it forecasts energy streams, it optimizes energy streams, and it controls different assets, whether it's an e-vehicle, a heat pump, a process, even kind of solar panel inverters. So we kind of enable the world by means of software and AI, and that same AI can be repurposed for other use cases and other domains then.
So what kind of challenges are you facing with applying AI?
Oh, a lot. It starts from the basics. When I actually heard here also about interfacing with real fields, we have to interface with real buildings, real sensors, real devices. And on paper, everything is easy. It's like, here is my specification, just read it and write it. And in reality, it doesn't work. And so we first have to break the boundaries of being able to speak and actually communicate with the devices. So that's a big challenge, getting to the data. The next one is really getting good quality data, because maybe you can get it, but it's not always there when you want it. The third element and the fourth element is about having semantics and ontologies. Certainly the machines need that. A human being has that in his brain. The machines don't really have it. They just get data and they don't know what's the relationship with all the rest. At the moment, all these devices, there is no uniform standard, no uniform semantics around that. So we have to kind of patch that, add ontologies, how the relationships are, and kind of bring semantics that the AI can use on a generic manner. So a lot of challenges.
I can imagine. So do you find the right people to work with it? And do you have, for example, Mika was talking about an AI translator.
We don't immediately need an AI translator, although I definitely agree that in a bigger grand scheme of things it's needed. But for our purposes, what we need is we need people. We can get a great mathematician, we can get a great data scientist, but at the end I've already seen so many times that they bring results, they don't know if the results are good or not good. The algorithm says it should be A. I don't know.
They know how to work with the data, but what kind of conclusions do you take out of it?
What type of conclusions? So what you need is the mix of data scientists, mathematicians, engineers, people that know the use cases, and those are very scarce to find at the moment. So it's not that easy.
Mika is listening very carefully. all those examples you've ever heard before, I guess. But first I go to Miguel de Bruyke. Very warm welcome, Mr. de Bruyke. What role, maybe if you could explain it briefly, what's the role of the Cybersecurity Center?
Well, the Center of Cybersecurity Belgium is implementing the national strategy on cybersecurity. So we have 4 types of customers. We have the population, where we work around awareness, and we have just launched our new Save on Web app, for instance, to make people aware of cyber threats. We also have the businesses as customers, where we try to give them more information how to protect your environment and what are the major threats. For instance, we have the Cybersecurity Reference Guide. Then we have the organizations of vital interest, better known as critical infrastructure, where we have an early warning system and where we do the analysis on daily basis of all the threats towards that critical infrastructure. And then, of course, we have government entities where we try to implement more security, implement more auditing, and, of course, also incident response.
And how many people are working at the center?
For the moment, 53 people.
Only 53 people,
yes.
Because you are counting a lot of tasks of the Cybersecurity Center. So in what way is AI being used in the Cybersecurity Center?
Well, we are collecting an enormous amount of information, and we do that also in collaboration with Proximus, I have to say that. And we are trying to do the analysis on daily basis. Now, collecting all that information and doing the analysis on what are new emerging vulnerabilities that could impact our country. What are the vulnerable systems in our country? And also, how will we in the future handle all that information in a correct way, in a more efficient way? That is where artificial intelligence is coming in.
Mm-hmm. Companies in Belgium, but around the world, are being attacked on a daily basis. Not every company, but a company is being attacked all the time, being attacked very often. So just think about MediaMarkt, I think, was a recent example. How can companies protect themselves against those cyber attacks?
Well, there are basic rules. First of all, what we are trying to do, as criminals invented spear phishing, we have invented spear warning. So we are trying to identify the vulnerabilities in our country. Currently in our database, we have more or less 50,000 vulnerable systems in our country. We have more than 1,000 infected systems in our country. We try to identify the owners of those systems and try to warn them. So knowing your vulnerabilities, knowing your exposure on the internet is quite important. And then, of course, implementing standard security measures, for instance, for external access. Make sure that you have two-factor authentication, for instance. Make sure that your users are aware of the most important cyber threats so that the human intelligence, instead of the artificial intelligence, can also come in and stop the attacks. So I think it's important to have a good governance of your cybersecurity posture in general in your company.
But companies that are applying Internet of Things, data analytics, AI, are they more vulnerable?
Well, especially for the Internet of Things, security for the moment is, to be honest, a little bit forgotten, or quite often forgotten. These are new domains, and so you started by making sure that it works. And very often, as the example with cars, security comes afterwards, unfortunately. So for the moment, we have launched a proposition on European level to investigate whether all Internet of Things devices, IoT devices that are sold in the future in Europe shouldn't have an automated patch system provided by the producer, by the seller, by the distributor, so that we don't end up with billions of unpatched and vulnerable smart TVs, heating systems in our homes. Everything in our companies, cameras, all those systems might be vulnerable, will have vulnerabilities, and there's no standard system to patch them, to update them. Your iPhone, your Windows computer is doing automated updates. What about your smart TV? Mm-hmm. It isn't. So in a company, you must be sure, or you must be aware of the fact that all those devices are a part of your IT infrastructure. They are linked to your network. If they're vulnerable, your network is vulnerable. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you very much. I can take the conclusion, Mieke, that it's still work in progress. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with all the points that were mentioned, especially taking more time at the design phase of your AI system, taking security by design, user experience by design, ethics by design, but not once you've finished your solution, but at the moment where you design it together. That's the part that's absolutely missing at the moment.
Something that you stress in your book is that you need to have a good relationship with the AI team. What kind of relationships should that be? Should that be on a daily basis, or how do you see it?
Well, it depends on how big the company is, of course, and what the teams are that are involved. But at the moment, what we see too often is that they work in a silo. They get all excited. To be very honest, I'm an engineer myself, so I get excited when my system is accurate. I don't care about the ethics, etc. And this is not the right attitude. So having a multidisciplinary mind already at the level of education and academics, during our, the time we were studying data science, this is going to be important as well. So at the moment, we need to rely too much on the personal, I would say, the personal mind of an engineer or a data scientist in order to make sure he thinks about these other things. And this should stop. We should really have these open discussions. That's what I'm trying to force.
So now we've heard a very interesting example in the construction sector, in the agriculture sector, in security. Are there any other sectors you think of where artificial intelligence can make a huge difference?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's also mentioned in my book that AI does a very good job when it gets to difficult tasks. And this was a very perfect example. And there's many, many data out there where you can't see it with your open eyes or with standard systems. Dirty tasks, dangerous tasks, and dull tasks. Especially on the dangerous tasks, when I think about waste management, the detection, for example, of batteries in huge waste, which causes explosions. We don't see this with our open eye, but with specific cameras, we can look through it. So these are parts where we can really have a huge impact, where AI is not that much yet, in the projects available.
Well, a lot of expertise and knowledge is required to apply AI in a correct way. Should this be in-house expertise, or should you? Yeah, is it a good thing that you just give it to an outside or an external party?
This is my opinion now. I look at it as for example, if you think about the medical world, you cannot know everything. It's very normal in the medical world to go to your doctor, and the doctor will send you the specialist. In AI, people haven't understood that there are specialties in there as well, so you cannot cover it all. So collaborating with the right partners, the strength is in the ecosystem you have around your company in order to make sure that AI lands correctly. You can't do it all. And this needs to be translated more, that also in AI you have specialties. You don't go to a cardiologist to check your skin. This is very normal in the medical world. Well, in AI, it's exactly the same. Make sure you have your ecosystem of partners around it that have their specialties in order to make sure it lands correctly.
Thank you, Mieke. You're already mentioning the next topic, 5G, where AI comes in as well, of course. So I'd like to thank you all for your contribution today. Mieke de Ketelaere, we have Miguel de Bruiker, Jurgen van Geiten, and Stefan Lordobegs. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, 5G is for later on, because first we're going to talk about the manufacturing industry, and that is where AI comes in as well. AI can help automate processes, allowing manufacturers to build smart operations that can reduce cost and time. But AI can also be used in a completely different way by adding a layer of intelligence to their products. A manufacturing company can be transformed into a service provider. We will learn more about this during the next roundtable, but first it's time for our next keynote speaker of the day, Sandra Houstmans. He is Sales Director Enterprise and Growth at SAS Benelux. As a software provider, SAS invested heavily in AI in order to improve the quality of data analytics. So Sandra Houstmans will highlight the new challenges of manufacturing and present the latest trends in the sector. So Sandra, I give the floor to you. Thank you.
Thank you. So they asked me to present today on trends in manufacturing. And if you look at one of the major trends today, you see the potential of AI in manufacturing is huge. The impact is really there. By 2023, 65% of global manufacturers will realize savings of up to 10% in operational expenses through process digital twins and other AI and machine learning processes. Now, while that is a huge impact, it's also a big buzz and a big trend. But there is a big but and a big maybe here. The market reality also says that 80% of the models that these companies deploy will never get into production. They stay stuck in lab and pilot mode. That means that 1/5 of all this effort, all these models, get deployed, but the deployment time, it takes up to 7 months. So there is a huge trend here, there's a huge potential value, but where the money is created in the deployment, it's a very painful and challenging process. That's something that we also see amongst our customers. Some of the common challenges we see is that it's for some companies still unclear where analytics can make a difference. For some people it's just yet another trend, another buzzword. So what does it mean for me? What does it mean for my company? And if you enter one of these companies, they are separated in very strict data silos or even company department silos. And data quality doesn't always match up. Whenever somebody wants to start one of these AI or analytics projects, the first thing they think about is, okay, where can we hire 10 data scientists? But hey, look into your organization. You have probably more than 100 engineers running around. Those 10 data scientists, you will not find them in the market because every company is looking for them. There's a lot more value in how can you train the engineers, the people that you have knowing your process in your company, to train them. There's also a very big focus, it's almost an obsession, is okay, how can we create the next best performing model? How can we go 1% better? But a lot of companies also lose sight on, okay, but what is the business relevance here? It's not about finding the most complex algorithm, it's about finding the best business fit between your technical solution and in the end, the business problem you're trying to solve. And it all starts a bit with not starting with the end in mind, starting technology first. So we see a lot of companies, the 80% stuck in proof of concepts and not seeing how can we get out of this, how we want to scale. In short, or in summary, you could say that a lot of companies are drowning in a swamp of data, but they are starving for key insights, key decisions that will have impact on their end business results. Now, it's easy to talk about the challenges, right? So you're still not any wiser after 3 minutes in this keynote. But that's why I'm going to give you 5 key ingredients, or actually 5 key questions that you can, next time that you are in a project with your team, you see a project passing by on analytics from one of the other departments, 5 questions that you can ask to ensure that your company gets the road to value at scale. First question is, where's the value? Think value backwards instead of technology forwards. That means that first you try to identify one of your companies or one of your industry key KPIs or key goals, and you start working back from there. How can we influence that KPI, that goal of my company, with maybe technology that we have somewhere in the back end? Secondly, you ask the question, what is our vision, and how does this vision fit into the broader roadmap of my company? And you use that company roadmap, that company vision, to make, let's say, a mini version of that vision for your analytics project, for your analytics project that you're trying to solve within manufacturing. The third one, and the question that you should ask, can be a quite direct question: are we in a data dictatorship or in a data democracy? Are there few people in the organization who are a master of the data and holding it close to their hearts? Or is it something that is really democratized where everybody can benefit from? Again, back to the story of would you rather hire 10 data scientists, which you cannot find on the market, or train 100 engineers to deliver capabilities? The second one is much easier because these people, they already understand the business acumen, the business challenges that your company is in. And it's easier to give them the technical skills to advance with analytics. The fourth point is to find a first case, which is a lighthouse case. And a lighthouse case, that's a case that is bang on, where nobody can say, oh, okay, the guys from this or that department, they did this little experiment in data. It needs to be a case that shows what KPI, an important KPI of your company, you can impact with the use of data and analytics, a case where you can bring everybody along, the entire company, with you towards this major change. And then the last and the fifth question you need to ask in your company is, do we have scalable technology and partners to perform this? Because it's very easy to do something in a lab or a concept mode, but it becomes very difficult to think of, okay, but how are we going to do this in production? We can do this with 2 people and find out the next predictive maintenance model for a certain type of asset. But how are we going to make sure that the guy or girl who is in the maintenance floor on a certain line is going to operate based on our insights? How do we get that person in the project? And there you need to align with the right partners and the right technology enabled to do this. In short, it's time to get AI out of the lab into the daily operations now. And I like the presentation that Mieke did earlier, a couple of minutes ago. People process technology, that's for most of the business leaders here in the room and in the digital room at home, maybe easier to understand, is again for people. Ask your organization, are you a data dictatorship or a data democracy? For process, do you have, are you thinking value backwards? Do you have this into a vision and a roadmap? And are you able to deliver this in a lighthouse case? And then the last part, which we are here today, is can you do this with scalable technology and partnerships like SAS is doing today with a Proximus providing connectivity and Microsoft providing the cloud infrastructure to do this. And that is with those 5 questions, with those insights that you can go back, I hope you wrote them down, to the people where you're working on the next data challenges, and help them to get AI out of the lab, not being part of the 80% that gets stuck, but of the 20% that gets this into the operations and makes an impact on your business. That's where I wanted to close off, and I'm happy to talk further about this during the keynote.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Join us, and thank you for sharing your insights. Take a seat, and we will continue indeed talking about this topic. And in the meantime, I introduce my 2 other panel members, Mirjam Broeders, Chief Technology Officer, Microsoft, and Luc Joossens, Chief Marketing Officer at Schröder, a worldwide leader in smart lighting. Mirjam, how does Microsoft support manufacturing?
So do you know why manufacturing actually is sexy today? It is because of AI and because of operational technology. And what is needed for that? We need cloud infrastructure, as you mentioned. And hey, did Microsoft announce this week that we will be building in Belgium our own local data center region?
You did.
Bringing that technology and cloud infrastructure really close to the companies and making sure that also the manufacturing, the cloud for manufacturing that Microsoft has is empowered and enabled. And with that cloud, we empower the workforce. We make sure that we have resilient and that we create more resilient supply chains, that we can have operational and safe, agile factories, and that we actually support and unlock innovation and new services for manufacturing customers. And how does that look like then in real life? At Atlas Copco, for instance, they have connected 200,000 compressors to make sure that they can be managed and monitored remotely, and that they also get recommendations to improve. At AB InBev, a super case digital twin they have created of their brewing systems and breweries. They can monitor key KPIs. And what today they are already capable of is to predict in their fermentation process the alcohol degree that will come out. Those are really extraordinary cases and helping them forwards, predicting important elements. Another example is AkzoNobel. They connected already 30 factories and 30 more to come still this year, where they are capable in near real time to monitor their OEE metrics.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for giving some very concrete examples. So why are manufacturers uniquely positioned to improve their sustainability efforts using industrial Internet of Things?
So, as mentioned already earlier today, sustainability is a hot topic, and operational efficiency is key to sustainable manufacturing. And industrial IoT brings visibility to data. And if you then, on top of that, apply AI and machine learning, then that will help in supporting realizing the sustainable manufacturing. And that can lead then to reduction of CO2 emissions, reduction of waste, but also bringing a better and more dynamic balance in supply and demand. And we have like an end-to-end approach to sustainability, making sure to keep a pulse on all the core metrics.
Mm-hmm. So in what way is Microsoft co-creating?
That's a super question. And we have a super large partner network within Belgium and also broader worldwide, of course. And what we do is we provide the technology and the platforms. That's what Microsoft does. And then partners build on top of that. Some examples are ABB, Rockwell, Siemens, AVV, PTC. They build solutions with their industry know-how and expertise. And also Proximus does deployment implementation of Microsoft technology. If we look around the table, together with SAS, we collaborate with SAS. Sorry, look.
That's Sridhar.
That's Sridhar, I know. How we collaborate on making analytics easier to use for customers and to remove friction between data insights and actions. And Sridhar is actually using Microsoft technology to continue to enlighten their customers. And on top of that, recently we announced what we call a partner pledge initiative, in which actually on 4 pillars, that is diversity, skilling, ethical and responsible AI, and sustainability, that we will collaborate stronger with partners in the market to make sure that we build strong solutions and stronger together. And I'm super proud that I'm part of that team to make a difference locally.
Well, thank you very much, Miriam. So we go to Luc, who is representing Sridhar here, the manufacturer of lighting. You work on a completely different big data project in the manufacturing industry. Could you elaborate on this?
Yes, good. So first of all, our starting base is a manufacturing company. We're a global leader in manufacturing outdoor lighting products around the world. Particularly here in Belgium, we are proud because one of the 2 luminaires you would see on the highways, in city streets, in tunnels, sports fields, are made by Schrader. But a couple of years back, we already envisioned to create or offer our customers a platform on which they not only can manage their infrastructure, in this case public lighting, street lighting, but also to control dimming, to also do remote diagnostics, but also to provide additional applications for smart city.
Mm-hmm. So is the company moving towards becoming a service provider instead of a manufacturer? Well, you will still produce the lighting, but you are servicing light to your client.
Yes.
That's
exactly
the case, yeah.
That's
Okay. So, what about that platform that you've built? Could you tell us a bit more about what that is?
Yeah. So first of all, there's a number of added value that we provide. First of all, there's a monetary added value in the sense that it enables customers to do significant energy savings based on the dimming that is being provided, but also remote diagnostics. But on top of that, it's an open architecture that enables to build smart city applications. For example, very practical, a city you can see what the traffic density is in a certain area, how the occupation is of the parking lots, etc. Or provide also even weather information. So at the core, it's an open architecture on which different other connected devices can be added on.
So the topic today is co-creation. So where did the co-creation come in?
Yep, a lot of collaboration. In the first instance, we worked with Codit to co-develop this platform. Secondly, also it's based on a Microsoft Azure cloud-based platform for the data. But thirdly, we don't have the ambition to become expert in all kinds of smart city applications. So we work with a lot of partners where we integrate their products and their solutions in our offering and our services as well.
Well, it sounds that this application can have a huge impact on the environment. Is that being measured as well?
Yes, as well. So we have helped already many cities around the world in their smart city ambitions. And so beyond the savings they do on energy, there's an additional dimension which is protection of the environment. So when you control the dimming in a city, you can also reduce the light pollution and protect more of the wildlife. So as such, we had an interesting project. We worked together with the city of Brussels and Sibelga. And there we implemented adaptive smart lighting system. And the case is in the Bois de la Cambre. People familiar with the park. It's a busy park used by many users, a lot of traffic going through, but also cyclists, pedestrians. But it's also home to wildlife like squirrels, little foxes, and also small deer. So in practice, what we've done there is that it's an automatic dimming system that enables, for example, if the city of Brussels goes in lockdown, we use online data from traffic information, but also weather information, etc. So if the city of Brussels goes in a lockdown at 10 o'clock, less traffic, the system will dim automatically. But when, for example, if there's a demonstration because of safety, the light levels will actually automatically move on. So in this adaptive lighting system is better viewing comfort for its users of the park, but also it protects the environment because at the end the inhabitants of the park, the wildlife, has less light pollution and is therefore more protected. So it's smart lighting as a theme to better protect the environment next to
Interesting.
the benefits.
Interesting. Thank you, Luc. Okay. So back to SAS and back to Sander. How do you guide customers through those typical challenges that companies and organizations face in applying analytics and AI?
Well, it's really a maze of complexity. And now I make it sound very difficult. Doesn't always need to be that way. It's basically going back to the 5 things that I said. You need to keep them in the back of your hand. And the first thing is really the value. Why are you doing this? And what is the key value driver for your company while you're making this? I'm sure at Schrader, if you say we are providing light and that's in the end, that's the key goal. That's very different than to say, we need to sell 1,000 light bulbs, for instance. So that's a lot more motivational, and that's really an umbrella where you can attach a lot of things to. And then next to that, really try to get as much as partners involved. That also sounds a lot of parties. But in the end, in reality, you see that every aspect in the business, not everybody speaks the same language, and you really need to combine them and need to find somebody, hopefully that's you yourself as the business person, which is the glue, the driver that binds all those parties together.
Finally, can you tell us a bit more about your partnership of SAS with Proximus?
Yeah, so our partnership with Proximus, it's really focused on, let's say, when we come in at a company, we have 2 situations. Either they already have the data, but they don't know what to do with it, or they don't have the data, and they're looking a bit, okay, how can we get that? So Proximus is there for us to really provide that connectivity, and really to be already in one cycle. From the moment that we have the data, we can start investigating, start providing value to it. Because that's what we see a lot with companies. If they make an investment for extra sensors or whatever, they need to prove to their management, of course, that, okay, why did we make this investment? What is the value? But also the other way around, sometimes we see that we are gathering 100 variables, but we only need 10 to say if a certain machine, if it's going to break down or not. Then you can throw away 90 sensors, and it's also a cost reduction. So it goes both ways.
So the added value should be measured.
Absolutely. That's a good summary.
Okay, thank you very much. Sandra Houstmans, Mirjam Broeders, and Luc Jolsens, thank you very much. So it's clear, ladies and gentlemen, that new technologies confront us with more and more challenges that are becoming more and more complex. But thanks to co-creation with other parties, nothing is impossible. And an organization that supports co-creation in the manufacturing industry is A6K. A6K is a place where industry professionals meet to innovate. We sent our flying reporter Ben Roelants on the road to pay them a visit. Let's have a look.
Just imagine a place where a lot of enterprises focusing on technology, innovation, digitalization come together on a crossroad to share their experiences. Well, I've come to such a place, only right here in Charleroi. They don't call it a hub, they call it A6K. Let's go and have a look. Alors Marc, A6K, racontez-moi un peu les activités qui ont lieu ici.
C'est un lieu de partage entre des entreprises, des centres de recherche, des organisations, des universités. Et donc on essaye quelque part de fédérer dans un même lieu l'activité de recherche surtout et aussi de trouver des points communs qui permettraient à ces entités d'avoir un sens à venir travailler ici localement.
Aujourd'hui, vous avez un réseau 5G dans le bâtiment.
Tout à fait, qui fonctionne.
Et ils sont où les antennes?
Alors les antennes sont cachées dans l'infrastructure métallique qui est là-haut pour les antennes de Proximus, mais également nous avons la chance d'avoir des acteurs qui ont développé une technologie pour intégrer dans le verre les antennes.
Et alors vous avez des émetteurs également?
Oui.
Je peux les voir?
Tout à fait, ils sont juste là derrière le bureau.
Allez-y ici.
Là, ces émetteurs donc, permettent de mettre en réseau différentes technologies pour faire des essais comparatifs.
Raconte-moi les essais qu'on fait déjà aujourd'hui.
On va faire simplement la fonctionne, mais on va dire la recette définitive de l'installation. Alstom, AGC et Multitel, qui sont des acteurs qui nous ont aidés à construire le cahier des charges et qui maintenant vont nous aider à faire la recette de l'installation.
Qu'est-ce qu'on a là?
Alors d'abord, il faut que je signale que l'idée de cette technologie, c'est d'être la plus discrète possible et donc d'être invisible. Alors aujourd'hui, on a quand même la chance que ces antennes soient visibles parce qu'on a un échantillon. Là, vous avez un échantillon de vitres.
Parce que ça, c'est une antenne.
C'est une co-création entre un de nos partenaires AGC et Proximus pour essayer de rendre les antennes finalement complètement invisibles.
Et selon vous, pourquoi est-il tellement important que les antennes soient discrètes dans le futur?
Parce que nous aurons besoin d'un réseau plus dense en antennes, parce que les fréquences et la densification de la 5G va obliger d'avoir des cellules de plus en plus petites. Et donc toutes sortes de nouvelles technologies qui vont rendre des objets communs, des objets familiers finalement actifs en 5G.
Comme vous le voyez, à A6K, ça bouge, il y a la co-création, manufacturing, un peu de tout, et tout peut être une antenne. Génial, merci.
And thank you, Ben. A6K enables companies to experiment with the applications of 5G and share their experiences with each other. And so we come seamlessly to the next topic, which is 5G. 5G is essential for the development of IoT and AI. The extremely low latency makes 5G extremely suitable for things like self-driving cars, automatic drones, smart meters, wearables, and vehicle tracking. As 5G ensures greater security and efficiency, it will accelerate the digital transformation of businesses, allowing them to innovate and grow even faster. But how fast is 5G? Well, Ben Roelants is meeting 5G expert Jurgen de Klerk to find out.
Goodness gracious, we're in Ghent, and that's great. Those are 4Gs, but today I'm looking for 5Gs. And that's why we came to Ghent, to this magnificent building. Jurgen, why did you want to meet up here then?
Well, today we've installed in Ghent our 5G network. Thanks to 5G, we will be able to connect 1 million devices per square kilometer. So not only the advantages for the people that live in Ghent, but also for the city itself. Can you imagine if you connect traffic lights, digital signage, all with our 5G network, how fluid the city life will be. The most important with 5G is not only the speeds. Speed is one thing, but the other thing is the latency. We have an ultra-low latency that we go to 5 milliseconds to create new applications. So drones by AI or automatic guided vehicles, so you don't need any drivers anymore or no employees to control them.
So me as a corporation, as an enterprise, how can I implement this technology and make full usage of it?
Well, there are two kinds of 5G. You have the public 5G, but companies, most of the time, they choose for a private 5G. So we as Proximus, we install mobile private networks at the customer sites. You see on the top of the building on the left, you see the 5G antenna. That's distributing 5G as we speak. I suggest you perform speed test on your mobile phone, and let's see the difference with 4G and 5G.
I've downloaded this app, What happens next?
Well, if you press the go button, it will perform a speed test. It connects with the network, and now it's downloading some data to see which speed you get.
So more than 800 megabytes per second. How does this compare with 4G?
Well, with 4G Plus, we go to 200, 250. So it means your download speed is actually 4 times faster than with 4G.
Wow. Those are amazing numbers. Jürgen, you've passed the speed test.
Very interesting indeed. Thank you very much, Ben. And we will elaborate on the topic of 5G with my 4 guests here around the table. Wouter Martens, CTO at Mr. Watts. It's a digital agency specialized in mixed reality apps for HoloLens, which is a smart glass device. We will go into that later on. Quinten de Raad, sales manager Benelux, Comark, an international software provider. We will talk later on about the Comark diagnostic point. Danny van Rijkel, key account manager Fabriek Logistiek of POM East Flanders. Very welcome. And Alex Loretti, director enterprise solutions and platforms at Proximus. Thank you very much for being here. Alex, I'd like to start with you. So 5G is absolutely a very strategic pillar for Proximus. How can organizations explore the opportunities of 5G because it's not implemented on a wide scale?
Well, Francesca, the answer is very short and simple. They can explore it via our specific 5G innovation platform, actually.
And could you tell us a bit more about this platform? So who can use this platform?
Yes. So the reason why we created this platform is to maximize the number of use cases and to really speed up these use cases, because there are a lot of talks about 5G, but many companies, they don't know how to start with. They don't have a very good idea and precise idea of what it can bring, what are the benefits of it. And also they might fear that it's huge investment and very complex. So what we wanted to do with this innovation platform is really create a platform where we make 5G technology accessible in 2 manners. The first one, because we are there to help in terms of consulting and use case design and setting up the use case, but also from an economic perspective, we are also there to make sure that actually, as a company, you can test your 5G use case in a very economical way.
And do you have to go to a certain location, or you can use it anywhere? Because I can imagine that companies want to check it on site where they work.
Yes, I would say the answer is both. We, as Proximus, actually have the biggest 5G MPN network in Belgium. Why is it so? Because actually we deployed a 5G data core. And on this 5G data core, actually we can connect any site that we want on 5G. We have temporary spectrum for the moment that we can use. So the only condition for a customer is to have a 5G or a mobile coverage. And from there on, you can connect and get access to the data core. So that's one important element. The other element is also we try to work with hubs so that companies can really meet and co-create, and we have one hub at our headquarters. We saw in the video we have a hub in Wallonia that just has been started, which is A6K, and we have another hub here today around the table that was just launched also, is POM Logistics in East Flanders.
So can we make it a little bit more concrete? A company that is watching, or a representative of the company, and says, okay, I want to use this platform, what should they do?
So it all starts with, I would say, design thinking sessions where we try to explore what is the idea. On there, we map a use case. We look if technology is really an answer to that. And from there on, we start with really more technical work. We are there also not only for the network, but to bring the 5G sensors, the 5G devices. We can also help in the design of the solution, the implementation, and the integration. And basically, the idea is that within a maximum delay of 3 months, you can move from an idea towards a concrete MVP and a first implementation.
And which companies are interested?
I would say the list is getting longer and longer, and it's now you really see the traction coming. So I could give a lot of names. Maybe I will give 2 names that are around the table today. It's a good transition to them. Is yes. Mr. Watts and Comark.
Absolutely. That was a question to go to you, Wouter. Could you tell us a bit more about what Mr. Watts, what are the activities of Mr. Watts?
Of course. Mr. Watts is a software development company, and we focus on smart glass technology, like the Microsoft HoloLens that I brought here today. the mission statement of our company is to leverage mixed reality technology or augmented reality technology to bring efficiency to professional workflows or create business value. And we are cooperating with Proximus on a very exciting project, like Alex mentioned. And this is situated in the construction industry, actually. We are building a BIM platform, a holographic BIM platform, like we call it. We are bringing the 3D models that are being designed by architects for buildings to the construction site in a truly immersive visualization. So we are bringing them in real scale on an overlay on top of the actual reality. So blending the virtual reality of the 3D model together with the physical
So I want to buy an apartment, I go to the site, I put on those glasses, and then I see what it will look like in 2 years' time.
Yes, that can be the case indeed. But we're also doing this for helping construction companies building the buildings themselves. So to do quality control or project follow-up, really in the field, breaking out of their virtual computer screens. Basically.
So I understand that it's interesting to see something in 3G, but where does AI come in?
Well, AI is very capable of coupling this as well with our technology, but 5G is...
5G, I'm sorry. We're talking about so many topics. Yeah,
yes.
5G.
Well, when we are building these kind of applications, we do some computational on the devices themselves, but also a lot is happening inside of the cloud, inside of data centers. For example, the 3D models that we are rendering are really heavy, so we need a lot of compute power to do this, and we are rendering everything inside of the cloud and streaming the result in real time to these glasses.
And why is it important that it happens real time?
Well,
is it just a question of efficiency?
No, because when you are immersed in these kind of new applications, you're really standing inside of them, then everything needs to be real time, or otherwise you just get sick. Everything needs to be recalculated. When you turn your head and you see everything mapped on the physical world, then it needs to be instant. It needs to be calculated directly, because that's how reality behaves, and we need that as well. And 5G is actually the only technology today that allows us to do this in the field, on a construction site, for example, because there is no Wi-Fi or other connectivity. We really need the low latency that 5G can bring us.
So where does Proximus come in? What kind of co-creation or partnership do you have with Proximus?
We are working on several fronts together with Proximus. From the technical side, of course, we are building the software, and Proximus is delivering the infrastructure, and we are hooking them into each other to make truly a good, fantastic user experience in the end of it. But also, from a business perspective, I feel we are a small startup, of course, and we're busy with innovative technology, but we can combine our strengths together with an established enterprise like Proximus to go to the market and to really make a difference, to really have an impact on how buildings are being constructed today. And that's what I'm really excited about as well.
How do you see the evolution of the use of augmented or virtual reality technology in the future?
Well, I think there's a tremendous opportunity. I think this new technology, augmented reality, virtual reality, will really allow to break out of the computer screen that we are used to and to have applications being immersed into our reality and really have applications, computers, work tailored to how we as humans behave. And that's a whole new era of opportunity, according to me. Lately, there's been a lot of talk about the metaverse, and actually the applications that we are building today, these mixed reality applications, if you interconnect each one of them, then you are essentially the metaverse. So I think companies are starting to realize that there's a new era coming. We are preparing for that now, and there's a huge opportunity. I also believe, because we're talking about construction a lot now, but for all other industries like manufacturing, like retail, or even healthcare, there's so much interesting things to see. In fact, we are for healthcare, we are cooperating with Dr. Tollens and the Imelda Hospital, and also with BD, to explore new use cases for them as well. in terms of teaching purposes for surgeons or complete new ways of medical imaging in 3D projected on a real patient's body, for example. So very exciting as well, and I love where it's going.
Indeed, you mentioned Dr. Tollens. It's amazing what he's doing, and he's experimenting. Someone who paid him a visit is our flying reporter, Ben Roelands.
Well, by now I think it's safe to say that 5G will change the corporate world, but it will also change the way surgeons work in their hospitals. And that's why I've come to the Imelda Hospital to have a chat with Dr. Tim Tollens. I always enjoy visiting hospitals because they make me wear these fine dresses. Lovely, isn't it? Well, Dr. Tollens, thank you for having us. I came here because I've been told that you're a pioneer in terms of using 5G and HoloLenses in your operation room. Can you explain, please?
So one has the smart glasses on the front. You have the integrated computer, which is quite powerful on the back side. That computer gives the capacity to integrate different programs, or we could open a CT scan as we are operating, or a manual, or a tutorial. As I would be operating you, I could open your medical file in my smart glasses and have it transmitted to a surgeon or an audience. The first target for HoloLens, I would think, in the medical world is the teaching.
Yeah.
Remote teaching, remote advisory functionality to other surgeons.
In what terms did 5G change your way of working?
It's going to give you a much more stable broadband capacity for transmission and will reduce the latency. When I operate and the screen that I'm looking at is remotely behind, is very annoying. So to reduce that latency and to give almost virtual real-time view is going to improve the quality of my surgeries.
So actually, what I could do then is just walk on the other side and come and stand next to you and have a look at the patient you're
Absolutely.
operating. Wow. Okay, well, thank you so much for having us, for letting us in here. And as I say with doctors and surgeons, I hope I don't see you too soon. Thank you, Dr. Tollens.
It was my pleasure.
Yes, Ben was impressed, but I am as well. It's amazing what kind of opportunities this HoloLens gives. All right, let's continue with Quinten. In a nutshell, Quinten, can you explain a bit what the activities are of Comark?
Sure. So Comark is an international software company which is active in multiple domains, multiple industries. E-health has been one of them since over 10 years right now. And within e-health, we focus on both soft and hardware, combination of both, so that we can bring end-to-end solutions to customers, to patients, to hospitals. And within the Benelux, we focus mainly on remote monitoring. So this means that we combine devices to measure vital parameters of patients, and then we transfer that data in real time to doctors, which can analyze that data.
Yeah, thank you. So Comark joined forces with Proximus to test one of the Comark's health solutions. So which one are we talking about now?
Yeah, so we tested our Comark diagnostic point, which is both mobile. In this case, it was obviously the mobile version as we're testing 5G, where we take vital parameters of patients, and then it's being followed up by doctors. Alarms can be triggered, actions can be taken, video calls can be initiated due to this. So that was a solution. And well, it seemed like an obvious choice, because for this, of course, we need high reliability, we need high speeds, so that was a match made in heaven, I would say.
You say it's important that we have high speed, so
yes.
But could you explain this? Why is 5G so indispensable in the application?
Sure, so right now we are at the beginning of the era where all kinds of remote monitoring solutions are up and coming, and we are convinced that this will grow tremendously over the coming years. And with such growth, it is quite indispensable that you have very high speed, that you have very high reliability, and high capacity as well, of course. So there we believe that 5G will bring a big benefit to this market. And because this will also mean that we can extend the scope of the solutions. If I look at, for example, what was presented right now by Mr. Watts, I'm thinking already, okay, this is something that we could insert into such solutions as well.
That's good. That's co-creation. It's
that is
happening right now.
co-creation indeed.
That's good. So could you tell us a bit more about the partnership with Proximus?
Sure. So actually that started, as I mentioned, we are active in multiple industries. Telecommunications is one of them as well. And actually we are in the process of delivering a platform to Proximus, which will handle their IoT and M2M SIM cards. And this, of course, made us think, okay, how can we enlarge the partnership? How can we do different things still together as well? Yeah. And then we look at our e-health portfolio, and it becomes evident that there is more things that we could potentially do.
Yeah, but co-creation is very important for Comark, not only with Proximus, with many partners.
Absolutely, and especially in the e-health field, as the e-health is quite a scattered landscape of providers, all with very specific skill sets. We want to bring as many people and skills together in order to have something central. So you can think there about care instances, about partners which are purely focusing on making good APIs. So with the platform that we're offering, we're looking at being the heart of all devices coming in, let's say.
Okay, thank you very much, Quinten. So I come to you, Danny. Let's talk about Fabriek Logistiek and POM Oost-Vlaanderen, East Flanders. Maybe you could explain briefly what they do.
Okay, East Flanders has the ambition actually to be an ideal location for business. And to be able to realize that ambition, you need space for these businesses to settle themselves. Mm-hmm. And so they decided, POM Oost-Vlaanderen, the East Flemish Development Agency, actually, to help realize this by developing strategic and regional business parks. On top of this ambition, the province said that they would apply great importance to being a knowledge region, which means that they want to focus on research, innovation, and startups, and also be a logistic top region. And as a result of that, POM also supports any company that is active in these two domains. And by doing so, we discovered that there was one big logistic challenge to be tackled by the companies, and that there is a kind of access of technologies coming up to the companies. And this overload of new technology actually results in what I call stress of choice. So the companies, they are confronted with a lot of questions like, which technology would fit best for my company or for my process, and can I test it anywhere? And also the question like the investment, what will be the payback of my investment? Is it worth doing it? And also, if I have new people, if I have people here, my employees, how can I train them in these new technologies, applying them, using them? So that's why, as an answer to all these questions, we built Fabriek Logistiek.
Mm-hmm. So where does 5G comes in?
5G fits in because we have antennas in all the test units. And Fabriek Logistiek is actually a logistic test and training center, where we welcome companies with their own staff and their own accommodations, and they can bring in these and test actually the concepts that are available in Fabriek Logistiek themselves, so they can find out if it's worthwhile changing technology, changing that, okay.
And what are the results? Are companies like convinced of the importance of 5G when they come and test in
There's both. We have two test units. The first one is focusing on palletized goods, the process in warehousing actually. The second one is focusing on e-commerce, and both units are equipped with the antennas. So this allows companies that are interested to test on the effectiveness, how 5G will impact being used in a warehouse, a realistic warehouse where there are metal racks and equipment that might influence the reception of the transmission actually. And that's where we give the possibilities to find it out for these companies themselves. But like most of technologies that are in Fabriek Logistiek, These require expertise. You need experts to help people that are testing, that are developing in these concepts. And for that reason, POM is actually only providing the hardware. We have the equipment there, so people can use it. And we rely very strongly on partnerships to help companies to get out the most of all concepts available in Fabriek Logistiek. And
then Proximus
for 5G, yes, we decided Proximus to be our partner in the story.
Yeah, and that works fine. That's co-creation, that partnership.
That's co-creation, exactly.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'd like to thank all my speakers here around the table, Danny van Rijkel, Alex, Loretti, Quinten de Raad, and Wouter Martens. Thank you so much for your contribution. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we continue. Oh, I'm sorry. Of course, we've got a great band, and I want to have a little bit of work for you, so go ahead. I'm so incredibly focused on everything that we have to talk about, and my next guests are already sitting here, but I'd like to thank this great band. They have been playing great before we started at 1 o'clock, so thank you to the All Stars band, and later on we will hear Coco Jr. again, who's the frontman of the All Stars. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we continue with the next topic, and we will continue on the HoloLens. The question is, will it make its way to the workplace, or will our avatars meet and collaborate in virtual space like Cisco, Microsoft and Meta already have shown? So how will we find, if we look at today, how will we find the right balance in hybrid working at the office and working remotely? So I'm going to ask these questions at the 3 smart workplace experts about what the future holds. So a very warm welcome, Michael Peters, Antoine van Brussel and Margaret Denis. Thank you for joining me. Michael, I'd like to start with you. How do you think we will work in the future? There's a lot of discussion going on about this hybrid way of working. We've learned a lot from the past year and a half. So what do you think, what direction are we heading to?
Well, for sure, it's not going to be one tool that fits everything. It's not one size fits all. It's going to be a combination of different factors. And some will be virtual data and some will be reality. And that mix will give us great opportunities towards the future in collaborating together.
Mm-hmm. So what about smart buildings? Because we're not only thinking about, about the way that we will collaborate and will we see our colleagues, how many times a week do we see our colleagues, but also about the location. What kind of evolution do you see there?
Well, for sure, like the real physical space will be augmented. It will be a mixed reality, and it will be a combination of virtual space and real space. And that's also why actually the user has to become more centric, because it's really about human behavior and how we will collaborate, how we will co-create and generate knowledge together. And there we just need to come away from the tooling. Everything gets connected, all the data gets transferred in some way, and it can be physically and can be virtually.
Mm-hmm. But we all know, of course, that technology can change the way that we interact. It can also change an organization as a whole. What kind of insights do you have? What do you see as pitfalls and benefits of new technology being implemented?
Well, what we see, and that's also research we are doing, is that the social conventions we have in a physical world will not be the same in a virtual world. There will be another way of dealing with one another. There will be other ways of giving, doing a message, collaborating, and that's very interesting. And there are a lot of questions going on, like, well, is it ethical? Are there ethical issues? Am I being monitored? How will trust work in? But there's also a lot of possibilities. Like distance will not be an issue anymore. It's really easy to collaborate with people all over the world, to have top experts joining you, especially with the HoloLens example we just saw. So you get a lot more interaction amongst people, and and that's something we need to manage and look into. Okay, how are we going to create create these physical spaces, but also how we're going to create those virtual spaces, and then how we will be mixing them together.
Yeah, it's a very exciting time in this sense, because so many things are changing due to the pandemic, of course.
For sure.
So, Antoine van Brussel, how does Proximus tackle the challenge of keeping a workplace human and workable?
Yeah, exactly. The human part is really key, and that's what we're saying to our customers. You know, we sell workplace solutions, so we help companies to design the workplace of the future for them. But often they come to us with a technical challenge. You know, should I go to the cloud or not, or should I use this or this or this solution? So what we're trying to do is take a step back with them. Do they think about what do they want as experience for their employees? And that's the important aspect. So we do design thinking with them. We do consultancy tracks where we help them to define the to-be situation for them. And key elements in that are not always technical. It's also about the people, about user adoption, about change management and things like that. And indeed, in this hybrid world, the workplace is becoming more and more complex. So it's really important to define that how people will work on the go, in the offices, from home, and like that.
Mm-hmm. I hear that it's a discussion that is happening in all companies. Is there something like a perfect mix of hybrid working? There isn't probably. So, but where do you find like the right balance?
Yeah, there is indeed no perfect mix. It depends on your company culture. It depends on the task your employees are performing. A recent Beltic survey showed that 75% of companies say they would allow their employees to work 2 to 3 days from home. But that's a kind of an average. And behind that, there's a lot of different realities. A lot of different companies have different needs. But also within the company. Different employees have different needs within the company. So I can only recommend to companies to look at your employee base and define personas and define what is the perfect approach, the perfect environment for each persona.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned persona. It's a term I'm not very familiar with. So could you explain what it is?
Yeah. Persona is, in fact, a virtual representation of a person. You can give it a name, give it a title, and a few tasks that this persona needs to perform. And in fact, it represents a group of employees with the same kind of tasks, the same kind of needs. So from these tasks, we can work back and define what kind of infrastructure, tooling, and things like that this persona needs to perform well. And yeah, that's also something we have done internally within Proximus. But Margaret can explain that much better than...
Yeah, Margaret, you are the Director of Workspace Transformation at Proximus. So you work with personas as well.
Yeah.
In what sense?
We call them profiles. And what Antoine said, we're really moving away from that one-size-fits-all approach. That's exactly the journey that Proximus has embarked upon, and to take it a step further. Because I think we all have different needs and preference in terms of the workspace. And you, Michael, we also talked about that already. What we want to create is what we call, and it's maybe not a term that not everybody knows, but it's an elastic workspace. So where movement is easy and fluid for the different employees between those different workspaces, and really responding to the needs and the preference in that regard. So what did Proximus do? We started a new program called Campus, where we are truly reinventing the workspace. And it's a program over 5 years. We're not going to do everything short term. So it's a journey that we are embarking on together with our employees. Now, of course, the persona that Antoine referred to, it's very important. And what have we done? We have and are investing in profiling based upon different ways of working. Collaboration. Now, to make that more concrete, how do we see it? Because in the past we have already worked with personae, but we now took it really a step further. We are looking to how many interactions do you have? What type of interactions do you have? What's the complexity of those interactions? How do you use knowledge? What's your mobility? Do you share more knowledge? And based on all that, we defined 7 profiles, as we call them, within Proximus. And this, we link that to the workspace needs in that regard. And I think what's very important, we did that entire track, and we're still doing that, together with our employees. And to make it more concrete, one of the profiles is what we called an organizer. And an organizer is somebody who can do his work mostly alone, and that many of the activities can be done at home. On the other side, we have somebody that we call a nomad. And a nomad is typically somebody who works in teams together with others to create value for our customers. And when he or she, a nomad, comes into the office, it will really be to work in team together. Now, coming back to the organizer, it can be that that person can do most of the activities at home, but that the personal preference is to come to the office. And that's also okay. So for us, campus, one of the first why, as we say, is offering that choice to employees. Now, at the same time, at Proximus, we believe in that magic of human connection, of that personal interaction that you can have. So we're giving that choice, but we're also asking to come to the office for certain activities, to connect, to collaborate, and to enable innovation as such.
Mm-hmm. Well, more and more technology will be deployed on the workspace, but it will stay people-centric. Is that correct?
It will absolutely stay people-centric. That's really the objective. Now, what we see in terms of technology, it's really a key enabler in making this happen. When you come into the office, you will use different technologies to help this experience, this people experience. But also, let's be honest, to nudge sometime a bit the habits that we have. So also for that, we are looking and developing together with partners these technologies to make this happen. And I think Michael already talked about smart building technology, also very important. And all these systems and information, it has to be shared and interact with each other. Because, for example, the energy monitoring, managing that, linking that together with occupancy planning, I think it's very valuable, not only to manage your costs, but I think it's also good for the environment in that regard.
Interesting. Yeah. So many things will change in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. Margaret Denis and Michael Peters. I think I didn't mention your title, but you are the CEO of smart building company LAMP, and Antoine van Brussel from Proximus. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have come to the end of this long session. I'd like to thank you for watching and joining us online, ladies and gentlemen, but the afternoon is not finished yet because there will be breakout sessions, and the first one starts at 3:30 this afternoon. Thank you for joining ThinkThings, and thank you very much for all my guests, of course, for being here and giving their expertise to all of us. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Proximus. Think possible.